So here's what we've done so far. We've gone to the mortgage broker and got pre-approved for a mortgage.
And then we started a search to find your perfect home.
In the search, we found a bunch that we really liked, so we took a tour of those ones.
And then you found something you really liked, and now we're going to put an offer on it. Exciting.
Let's get started. So the purchase contract has a number of important items that we're going to have to discuss. Of course, you're going to have to put the seller's name and the buyer's name on there. We're going to be writing the address of the property, including the legal description of it. One of the things that we might want to negotiate is also what the goods are that are included in the purchase price. So often the fridge and stove will be included, the washer and dryer most of the time, the dishwasher and that kind of thing. But sometimes there's other items as well. If there's like a big bookcase, for example, in the bedroom that you really wanted to include, and we might conclude that they might not want to move it, we'll throw in something like that. So we're also going to be adding the purchase price that we want to start at, and we'll see if we can get them to agree to that. Sometimes there's some negotiation back and forth before we get to an agreement, as well as the possession date. So these are all things that we can negotiate based on what works for you and what works for the sellers, obviously. We'll be addressing things like dower. There's only one person on title, but the seller has since been married. Then the married partner actually has a stake in the property as well. We'll be talking about deposits, how much you want to put down, and whether they'd like to have it as a check or a draft or as a wire transfer or whatever. And we'll be able to, go through the contract and answer all the questions you might have about it. There's also conditions that we'll need to discuss. So as mentioned with a house, we're going to be looking at probably a financing condition and probably a property inspection condition. If we're doing a condo, then we're also going to add a condition where we want to review the condominium documents. And it's a pretty extensive list of documents that we'll be asking for at that point. You'll be initialing the bottom of each page. We'll also be talking about any additional terms. For example, if you wanted to have the carpets professionally steam cleaned prior to possession, we can add that to the contract. If you want to have access to the property once or twice before possession, we can add that to the contract as well. Sometimes that makes sense, especially if there's going to be some work that's going to be done to the property when you first move in. Sometimes it makes sense to agree to the seller allowing you access once or twice prior so that we can get estimators and stuff like contractors in to measure things and give you estimates. It's important that we identify who's the agent for each side of the contract. We'll be putting that on there as well. And then we're going to leave an acceptance time. So depending on how long we want to leave this offer open till, in a tight market, you kind of want to leave a tighter acceptance time so that we don't allow for other offers coming in. Other times, if we know it's going to be an offer that's going to take some work, we can leave it open for a day or two and see if we can get it done. But those are sort of the main things that you're going to see on a purchase contract. There might be some other stuff as well. And of course, when you do the contract with us, we'll be going through that slowly and carefully with you to make sure that you understand everything. I also want to add that in this case, we're doing it in person, whereas nowadays, a lot of times it's done over the internet with electronic signatures. So in that case, not much changes in terms of your ability to ask questions and understand what we're writing. I'll often get the contract to you in advance so you can read through it. And what's nice about this contract is it's written in plain English. It's not written in legalese. You're not going to see a lot of the, as to the aforementioned, hereto, undersigned, blah, blah, blah. It's just written in plain English. Of course, appreciating the fact that I've written over 500 of these and you've written maybe one or two, still feel free, of course, to ask a lot of questions. So once we got the offer accepted, and that might take some going back and forth and negotiating, but once we have it accepted, the next thing we're going to need to do is start working on removing the conditions that we put in the offer.
So when we're removing conditions, typically when we're looking at a home, we're going to be removing the home inspection condition and also the financing condition.
In the case of a condo, we're also going to want to remove the condominium documents condition. And in that case, we're going to be asking for a whole pile of condominium documents and going through them to make sure that the condo board has enough money in the reserve, for example, to cover off anything that might be coming up. And we want to look at the bylaws, for example, as well, to make sure that you can keep your cat.
So stay tuned for the next video.